Hello, welcome to SquishiVision. I don't know why this is being weird bits. It seems to think that I've got my credits on. I don't. Rather fix that part. Hello, welcome to SquishiVision, where I've just finished watching 2 o'clock in the morning. The latest episode of Strange New Worlds. Couldn't watch it last week because I went LARPing on Alexa Volume 0. I went LARPing on the Friday. No, Alexa Volume 0. Anyway, as I was saying, I went LARPing this weekend. I went to the Zone, which is I took it as a pre-post-apocalypse system. Anyway, damn it, this episode, actually good. I don't know why I'm saying that as if we didn't expect it to be good, but it was surprisingly really, really good. From the get-go, I was even at the cold opening, which was just riffing on a classic episode of Star Trek, I was laughing and grinning. So kudos on that. And then obviously when I realised it was Jonathan Frakes' directed episode, I'm like, oh well, I guess that makes sense, because obviously a Jonathan Frakes episode would be really, really good. And it's it's funny because we mock a lot. So this episode is basically satirising Star Trek, even Star Trek, which has been done before. I mean, that's Lower Decks' whole shtick. But even other episodes of Star Trek have kind of riffed on earlier Star Trek. This was essentially ripping to 100. Pretty much every single holodeck trope happened in this episode, and I think that's deliberate. I really like Paul Wesley's attempt at intimidating Shatnerisms. That was really good. That was well done. Some other small detail. I like the fact that even in the fake, so the show in the context, and I like that it's not just a shtick actually. It's part of this episode. But I like this fake show, The Last Frontier. It's meant to be ripping off of Star Trek, but not actually Star Trek. It's another show that would have existed in I assume this universe called or in this fiction called The Last Frontier. So obviously the uniforms, these are Star Trek-esque uniforms, but actually not really. They're not even the same colour scheme. They could be from any other sci-fi show really. Star Trek was the only sci-fi show. The bridge is kind of like Star Trek, but could easily just be a set from Return to the Forbidden Planet. Obviously, the phasers, the fact that they're wearing laser pistols and stuff isn't really very Star Trek-like. So it goes out of its way to be kind of Star Trek, but not Star Trek, except it still uses all the same sound effects as the classical series, as the original series, which I find really, really funny. And the alien who we're talking to in the view screen, he is really traditionally practical costume, and that really funny as well. So yeah, I was amused the entire time during the cold opening. I like that bit, which doesn't really inform the plot, but it's kind of a love letter back to Star Trek, where her Star Trek character is basically and it's important because a lot of people forget this about science fiction. I think science fiction is one of the best genres of fiction because it's by its sheer design is a vehicle for commentating on human nature and using analogy to an allegory to make commentary more so than other forms of fiction, because other forms of fiction don't use allegory, they actually depict the thing, or well, they can use allegory, but they also kind of depict the thing, whereas Star Trek doesn't depict the thing, it is entirely allegory. Because it's completely fantastical. And I like that, her character's this is a very important thing that we're using this to kind of criticize aspects of humanity so we can be better. And I'm like, that's very on the nose, but it's needed because people forget that. So I enjoy that. I like the fact they accounted for the fact that the holodeck shouldn't really be. Oh, well, not that it shouldn't. So the holodeck never appeared in the original series. I actually think it did make its debut in the animated series, which is actually the only Star Trek I've never seen an episode of. I should probably fix that and watch the animated series. I think at least one episode of the animated series, which has, I think they call it the Recreation Room, and it does a similar thing. So we can obviously do bad animation, and then we don't see it again until Next Generation. That counts as PowerPoint. And this episode kind of accounts for that. It's like this is the original test of the holodeck, all these early tests on a starship, and it's this massive power drag, and they're like, okay, well, clearly this doesn't work. I mean, it's somewhat unrealistic. It takes 100 years to refine it, but I mean, to be fair, like I said, the Recreation Room does appear in the animated series, which takes place about 10 years from now, and then it's 90 years before we see it again fully operational. So I think you can assume actually that it's not 90 years in that intermediate period between the animated series and the Next Generation. The holodeck becomes increasingly much more kind of viable. We just never see it in films because it's never part of the film's plot. I like Scotty in this episode. I think we've seen a nice little development and a nice little character kind of Scotty. I like the way that I like it when they use the actors to play different roles than what we're used to, but the same characters. I love when Star Trek does that, be it through the holodeck or be it through weird prophets magic. I like that they played into it, and some of them had different accents. What's her name? Jess Bush was able to use a natural Australian accent within the show. She's playing Australian, and I think some of the others through accents as well. I like cat design. I do wish actually at the cold opening, when they showed Last Frontier, they shot that in 4:3 rather than 16:9. But I guess it's kind of the predecessing standard TV before Univision was 16:9 and 4:3 preceded 16:9. So we're kind of following that little trend there. But I would have, and to kind of represent how I would have preferred to have done it, quite possibly instead, I'm just in a background 4:3. I'm not sure I really liked the twist. I mean, it was a twist. I wasn't expecting it, but I don't. And I guess it kind of was foreshadowed in a meta sense, and maybe it is. It's okay. It's not the most spectacular ending, but it was kind of clever, and I guess you could have kind of. I guess my issue is that Spock being a murderer makes sense, except did he It's also a bit too convenient. I don't know, it's kind of contradictory. The part of the episode I didn't like, where has this Lan Spock interest come from? Pairing. That wasn't foreshadowed, was it? Previous episodes? I mean, it was only 2 episodes ago that he was getting over Chapel, rather. Where has this come from? I don't understand. Why is Spock the character who keeps having these pairings? It was his relationship with, I forget her name now, but his actual Vulcan wife, who I'm pretty sure he's still engaged to. Then there was Chapel, which I didn't like, but there is some precedent that they have chemistry in the original series, and I guess it's kind of expanding on that. Fine. I guess you would use a show as a reason to expand that if you were so inclined to do so. But now it's just okay, now we're going for this. And I'm where does this come from? Why do we need this? Why is Spock the woman? It's not really womanizer, but it's he's kind of playing that role. I don't get it. I'm hoping that this isn't as kind of it was really hand waved for Ortegas to be back flying the ship as like we need all hands on deck. It felt very hand wavy. I'm sure it's not the end of that plot, but it felt like, oh, we need her back for this episode, and we don't want to like have to like rush forward that plot, so let's wave her back on, and then we'll deal with it. But like, she should have got fired like last week, you know? So that kind of stank. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I need to do a reaction video to I might do How to Train a Dragon live action version last week, and I should probably get my review out for that. And then hopefully tomorrow I'll get a chance to catch up on Eyes of Wakanda because I haven't watched it. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the future. Get out. Easy there, sunshine.